Facebook friends, it's Marianne here, and I want to talk to you guys about something that is potentially going to affect a ton of people in our country that no one seems to be talking about right now. And that is something that Trump's administration has proposed called adding a new category to the disabilities group. Now, if you are handicapped or disabled, you're probably aware that there are 3 categories in there. And those 3 categories basically mean someone that is never going to change. They are homebound, unable to participate in life, completely dependent on help to be able to make it through their lives. And then there's another category of someone that is not as homebound, but almost someone like my mom with Alzheimer's, where they have to have round-the-clock care and help to be able to do day-to-day things. And the third category are for people more like myself, if I didn't have all the help that I need and require and hadn't had the training to read lips and accommodate for my hearing loss. And that's for people that can participate in life pretty fully, but do actually have a verifiable handicap. And within these 3 categories is how Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare and all these different things that help us decide who gets what and what needs. Well, a lot of people don't realize, because so much is going on in the world around us right now, that there is a new category that Trump administration wants to push. And they actually got it through a lot of the steps to get it authorized throughout last year in November, December. And this new category that they're talking about is called most likely to improve. That sounds like a very nice euphemistic idea. It sounds like it's addressing something that hasn't been addressed yet. But the truth is, it's not. What is actually happening with that is it's saying, okay, if anyone could be, maybe they're bedridden, but by some tiny fraction of something, we could make the argument that one day in the future, we don't know when, but one day they might improve. And if we can make that argument, then boom, they get cut off. Or else they get severely limited by the help that they are receiving. And the irony is many times that the amount of money that they would be cut off with is the same stuff that would be allowing them to actually have that potential to recover and become active citizens contributing to our society. So this most likely to improve category isn't really as benign as it sounds. And right now, the administration is very much just hoping that you don't notice this. And as someone that deals with certain disabilities, and I want to talk about that, because it's not easy to deal with handicap and things. And those of us that have a handicap, we deal with it on a daily basis and we learn how to do it. But there are things that the government is supposed to do that makes it easier for us. So for example, when I come in from the airport, if I'm not traveling with my husband or anybody else, I rely on signs at the airport, because if any of you have ever seen those old cartoons of Charlie Brown, you hear that dull sound, wah, 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 that sound, that's what airport announcements sound like to me. So if people are up there speaking through that intercom, telling you anything, where to get your luggage or the gate is changed, all I'm hearing is wah, wah, wah. So, trying to figure out where I need to go to get my luggage and everything is a lot better for me if I have a visual sign. Well, things that allow that to happen are things that are often paid for by handicap accessibility. So it's not just about people who are walking around with canes or dealing with wheelchairs. It's also people that are blind or have, like me, a hearing loss or other things like that. And if I had not been born in a family that was able to gift me with access to speech therapist, I certainly wouldn't be speaking as clearly as I do now. As I often explain to people, the difference between the word crown and crayon are things I don't hear. But I had to learn the way a dancer learns choreography. Similarly, because your tongue's a muscle, I just learned how to shape itself. Similarly, my poor husband, Joshua, is always correcting me, going, Marianne, say this, repeat after me. And he has to break down things into other words I know and get me to fit in consonants and stuff so that I can form a word that I'm not even hearing. And it can be funny, haha, but at the end of the day, it can also be very complicated. Now, as someone that has been able to go around the world and speak for TEDx, at the White House, House of Lords, Parliament of World Religions, UN. I was blessed to speak at the Dallas Women's March this year. You know, whenever I'm out there speaking and participating in life and people say, yay, you influenced me, you empowered me, you inspired me. Part of what I don't always share is the way I did that was because I was gifted with the ability to have speech therapy, with the ability to have hearing aids. When I was younger, I eventually gave them up, mainly because I have a tonal hearing loss, so it just only turns up the volume of what I can hear instead of helping me with what I can't hear. So, you know, these days I actually work online and I pay a nice amount to be able to get trained in reading lips to make sure that I'm keeping up to date with my ability to read things, because speech therapy is actually always improving. If I didn't have the amount of money that I've had access to throughout my life, I would not be able to do those things. So if I had been born in a country, for example, when I was born in Mexico, if I had not been adopted from that country and had been living on the streets, I probably would not nearly sound articulate or educated or intelligent. And sadly, many people would have assumed that I had a major learning disability or my brain wasn't working quite right. And all these books that I've been blessed to publish, all these opportunities I've been blessed to be in, negotiating a treaty, doing all these incredible things, and the way I've been able to give back to society would not have happened if someone hadn't first invested in me. So that's what we're talking about, helping the handicapped in our country. We're saying invest in people so they can actually go out there and improve lives. And so many of you that follow me on Facebook are so beautiful and send me personal messages or say it right there on my page that I've helped lives. I've helped make a difference. Well, if you can see me making a difference in this world, then that speaks for every single person out there with a handicap that says, we're relevant. We have something to give. I don't know if those of you noticed the people who were in wheelchairs this past year up at the White House, and they were getting arrested, and they were fighting because the Trump administration wants to undo handicap accessibility laws. So, you know, these are the things that are really, really challenging us right now. And now they're also looking at not just the Medicaid, Medicare thing, not just undoing the handicap accessibility laws, not just adding this new thing that the administration is talking about most likely to improve. If I had been a young girl and they had that most likely to improve law, and I didn't have a family of wealth that could help make up for the difference for me, I probably would not have been able to afford speech therapy and have the kind of life that I have now. So I want to share something with you that is deeply meaningful to me. And this is something that my father was awarded. And it's called the Barbara Jordan Award. For those of you that are not from Texas, she was a remarkable woman. She was in a wheelchair, and she was also considered one of the judges in our state that truly just was an inspiration for many, many people. And I'll share this with you. This is, you can see, well, I'll try and turn this around. I think you're going to end up seeing this backwards because of the phone. But it says, for excellence in the communication of the reality of disabled people. And my father was awarded this medal because he ended up standing up for handicapped people. And he largely did it because of his involvement with muscular dystrophy and his friend, Jerry Lewis, who had the telethon. My dad was one of the main people, actually the main person that first jumped in feet first as the first person to put a ton of money behind trying to help get people's attention to muscular dystrophy and the plight of people and what they dealt with on a daily basis. And it dealt with not just what people saw in wheelchairs, but it affected the way people could communicate, the way people could participate in life, et cetera, et cetera. But the reason why I'm sharing this is about the communication of the reality of disabled people. And we are not, as a nation, really communicating the reality of it. I have been very blessed through these years with the Mendenhall Institute to benefit from some remarkable people that have really helped make our organization into what it is today. And our organization is doing absolutely remarkable things around the world, but it got shaped in large part by some people who have some disabilities. One of my mentors and a wonderful person who was on the board until she passed away was Her Excellency Oye Aina Olomo. She didn't start off that way. When I first met her, she was full and vigorous and could move around. But over time, as she got older, she ended up dealing with a lot of chronic issues that put her often in a wheelchair or put her walking with a cane. But the intelligence and education and cultural sensitivity she had who's still remarkably relevant. Today we have our friend Gregory Gomez. Many of you have seen him, and he's an Apache elder, beautiful spiritual leader for the Apache people, and he has certainly guided us in so much of what we've been blessed to do with indigenous people around the world, and how we work, what our philosophy is, how we should interact, how we should support. So much is absolutely relevant and still is, and we are continuing to benefit from him. But he has good days and bad days. On a good day, he can walk around. On a bad day, he needs a wheelchair at the airport and he needs a stick. For myself, as many of you know, I deal with seizures. And so sometimes you'll see me with this stick walking around, and other times you can see me out dancing. Sometimes a disability, it's not a 24/7 thing either. If I have a bad seizure day, I'm lucky if I can walk around with this, because if you see me walking with this, I'm in excruciating pain and still putting up with it because I'm determined to get through my day. But in order to not be in excruciating pain means living on hemp oil. And that hemp oil makes all the difference in the world. And if it weren't for the hemp oil, basically that time of the month, my seizures come back full throttle. And even on the hemp oil, I'm going to have probably a guaranteed 48 hours of not being able to participate much in life. But without it, I would be walking with this and hardly able to use it at all. And the reason why I'm putting that out there is because the hemp oil is really expensive. And if any of you know insurance that actually covers hemp oil, please put it down in the comments section so people that need it can do it. But I've met many people that could use it and really need it. And some of my friends, you know, who are doing remarkable work in the community, have told me about how they've seen people who have had fibromyalgia, people that have been on have been falling, and they're in their 70s or 80s, and then they get in the hemp oil and they stop falling and they're able to live their lives. I go on down the list. I'm not saying names because I want to respect their privacy, but a friend of mine with fibromyalgia, she went from being not able to participate athletically to being able to run now because she's taking it. I don't know why it works. I just know it does work. I just know that, for example, the hemp oil I use is Charlotte's Rev. And it was formed by a family that was told that there is no hope for their child, who was going to be with much worse seizures than I have, the full grand mal seizures. And now she's in her 20s living her life because of that hemp oil. But that hemp oil, it can really, you can almost spend 80 some, 100 some on a bottle. But when you're talking about your quality of life, it's that important. So I know if I'm dealing with this, there are a lot of people out there who cannot afford it. And therefore, they're out there probably working on a cane all the time. So, this is just to give you guys a little bit of insight into what does handicap mean? How is it affecting lives? And if somebody, say, was in my situation and they need that hemp oil to live a normal, vigorous life and be able to be physically active, well, technically, I would qualify as somebody that would be most likely to improve. But here's the caveat. I'd be most likely to improve as long as I had the hemp oil, which I wouldn't be able to afford unless I was receiving those funds as I had gotten used to from the government. So I know a lot of people out there are talking about where do we make cuts and everything. And I'm not even trying to get into Republican versus Democrats looks at all this. What I am trying to communicate to you is that there are many people in this country who have a good brain, who have remarkable things to contribute to society, but whose lives and their ability to be contributing members of our society are threatened by what is coming up right now in this month. And because everybody is talking about a zillion other things, and those things are important, I just wanted to take the time to draw attention to the fact that there are some seriously big things happening this month for people who are handicapped or disabled. And we all need to pay very close attention, because even if you are in the perfect health, you might end up like somebody who needs something one day. So, look at somebody who's in their 80s, look at somebody who's in their 90s. Heck, look, in some cases, people are in their 60s, and they are really struggling. I've met people who are, having canes, having to go have multiple surgeries because of their back or their knees. I had dual knee surgery a few years ago, and that made all the difference. But, these things, they're expensive. So most likely to improve, but only if you have the funds to do so, should not be something that disqualifies you from receiving the very funds that allow you to improve enough to contribute to society. And that's the thing that we as a society need to ask ourselves. Are we a society that care about that and want to support people's ability to contribute and therefore have all of us benefit from their contributions to our society? Or are we a civilization that wants to dismiss them and remove the very things that allow them to make our lives better because their voices can contribute that much? Most of all, we need to look at ourselves and ask, are we a society and a civilization that has empathy and compassion for people? I hear a lot of the people talking about who are supporting this supposed most likely to improve thing, and saying at the same breath that they believe we are a good Christian nation. Well, I was brought up with a certain idea of Christianity. In fact, that's one of the things that made my dad want to, make a difference for people that needed it. And I don't hear those same voices saying, maybe we should take care of the needy. Maybe we should take care of the poor. Poor doesn't always mean somebody that's starving on the street in rags. Poor could sometimes mean somebody that is working their ass off and has a whole lot of things that they're doing to make the ends meet. And they certainly are not lazy, but they need that one thing to make the difference. And right now, I have people in my family, extended family, who are struggling, and they have worked every day of their lives. And, of course, these are not my father's side, these are my mom's side. So they don't have a major inheritance, but they can't do the things like, mowing a lawn or stuff because they can't necessarily afford, like I do, the hemp oil. And yes, there are times when I can look at myself and say, I have the funds to help these people, people that I love, my family. Other times I might not have those funds because they're spoken for something else. But that means that we have family members that are relying on us. There have been people that I've had in my family that have needed emergency things, right away, and we've covered it. But not every family has somebody that has that means to get to those extra funds in order to help someone. I know someone who almost got tossed out this past month, from his apartment that we helped out. And not because he was lazy. It's someone that was working, but medical bills cost so much that if he wasn't going to become handicapped, he needed to be able to pay for those things so that he could become, active again. These are those kind of scenarios that are happening all across our nation. And we need to help people by having the compassion and a sense of responsibility to our fellow man in this country. If you say America first, then mean it. Because you're not going to be able to have access to any of these funds unless you can prove your citizenship. So guess what? America first? Fine. Then prove it and actually make a difference by helping your fellow Americans and your fellow citizens. Because if you're not, then it's all hypocrisy from here. So those are my 2 cents. I just wanted to share this with you because if you hear the term most likely to improve as a new type of way that they decide whether or not somebody is going to receive their funds to help them with their disability or handicap, please know that most likely to improve is a very euphemistic way of saying, because you might improve if you have this and this and this and that, we're not going to give you the money to get this and this and that. So you're on your own. Good luck. And that's just not the nation I think we want to be. So love you all. Please think about that. I look forward to your comments below. Talk to you soon.